So, Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant was born on 22nd of April, year 1724, and was died on 12th of February, year 1804. He is a German philosopher that is considered the most influential thinker of the Enlightenment era, one of the greatest Western philosophers of all times. His works, especially those on epistemology, which means theory of knowledge, aesthetics, and ethics, had a profound influence on later philosophers, including contemporary ones. Immanuel Kant has two rights of theory, and that is goodwill and categorical imperative. So, goodwill, Kant believe that the intention behind an action matters more than the outcome. If a person has goodwill, or a person has goodwill when they do the right thing just because it is right, not for rewards or praise. Just for example, you return a lost wallet not because someone is watching, or you'll get a reward afterwards, but because you know that is right, the right thing to do, and that is goodwill. Now, when we say categorical imperative, this is Kant's rule for deciding if something is morally right. If you could ask yourself, what if everyone did the same thing? If it's okay for everyone to do it, then it's morally right. But if it would cause problems, if everyone did it, then it is wrong. Just for example, lying to your friend. And what if everyone lied? Then, if everyone lied, no one would trust anyone. So lying is wrong. That is categorical imperative. So in short, do what's right because it's right, and that's goodwill. Act in a way that you'd want everyone else to act, and that is categorical imperative in the in rights in Emmanuel rights of theory. Goodwill and duty in Kant's moral theory. For Kant, a moral theory must be grounded on an account of what is unconditionally good. Conditionally good, these are the things that are only good in certain situations or depending on how they are used. Just for examples, money, good if used to help others, but bad if used to bribe someone. Power, good when used to protect people, but bad when used to control or hurt others. Happiness, good if earned honestly, but not good if it comes from doing something wrong, like cheating. And unconditionally good, or a goodwill. For Kant, only a goodwill is always good, no matter what the result is. A person has goodwill when they do the right thing just because it's the right thing, not for a reward or personal gain. Goodwill is guided by duty and moral law. Just for example, telling the truth to your friend even if it's uncomfortable, because honesty is a duty. Helping a stranger in need, not for praise or attention, but simply because it's the moral thing to do. In short, conditionally good is good in some cases but not always, while unconditionally good, or a goodwill, always good because it follows moral duty with no selfish motives. Duty, it means doing something just because it is the right thing to do, not because you want to or because it benefits you. It is based on moral law, not on desire, emotions, or personal gain. As Immanuel Kant quoted, act out of duty, not out of desire. A person with goodwill follows their duty even when it's hard or goes against what they want. Duty is an objective maxim, irrespective of all objects of desire. A rule you follow not based on feelings or rewards, but based on what is right for everyone. Kant goes on to say that duty is the necessity to act out of reverence for our universal law. Ask yourself, what if everyone did this? If it would still be good, then it's your duty. It is the presence of desires that could operate independently of moral demands that makes goodness in human beings a constraint, an essential element of the idea of duty. Doing good sometimes means holding back your personal desires and choosing the moral path. Examples of acting from duty: telling the truth, even when lying would benefit you. Example, you could lie to avoid punishment, but your duty is to be honest. Helping someone in need, even when it's inconvenient. Just for example, you're late for class, but you stop to help an injured person. Refusing to cheat, even when no one is watching. Example, you could copy answers on a test, but you know your duty is to be fair. So in summary, duty equals moral responsibility. It's not about what you want to do, but what you ought to do. Kant believes this is what gives human moral worth, choosing the right thing out of respect for the moral law. The categorical imperative. It is the supreme rule or highest principle of morality in Kant's philosophy. It tells us what we must do, not because we want to, but because it's the right thing to do. It is universal. It applies to everyone, in every situation, no excuses. It is intrinsically valid, good by itself, not because of results or feelings. You cannot opt out. You can say, this rule doesn't apply to me. If it's moral for everyone. Act only according to that maxim or rule whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. In other words, what if everyone did this? If the answer leads to chaos or unfairness, the action is morally wrong. Just for example, lying to get out of trouble. If everyone lied, no one would trust anyone, so lying fails the universal test, or that is immoral. Stealing when no one is looking. If everyone stole, property would have no meaning, so stealing is against the moral law. Keeping a promise even when it's hard. Everyone kept their promises, society would function better, so promise keeping is morally right. Categorical imperative equals moral law for everyone, not about feelings or consequences. It's about doing what is right, always, no exceptions. First formulation, the formula of universal law. Act only in accordance with that maxim through which you can at the same time will that it become a universal law. In short, only do something if you'd be okay with everyone doing it, always. Moral actions must be universalizable. They must work for everyone, not just for you. You can't make an exception for yourself. If you lie, cheat, or steal and say, it's okay just this once, that's immoral. If the action can't be a universal law because it causes contradiction or chaos, it's not morally allowed. Just for example, girl said, does this make me look fat? Man, thinking like Kant, replied, I cannot tell a lie. Why? If everyone lied to protect feelings, trust would disappear. So lying fails the universal law test. Even white lies are immoral in Kant's view. The man must tell the truth, not because he wants to hurt her, but because truthfulness is a duty. Another funny or relatable examples. Cheating on a test. What if everyone cheated? The test would be meaningless, and that's immoral. Skipping the line. What if everyone cut in line? There would be no order, and that's immoral. Keeping a promise only when it's convenient. What if everyone did that? promises would mean nothing, and that's immoral. So, in summary, the first formulation is about being fair and consistent. You must ask yourself, would it be okay if everyone did what I'm about to do? If yes, it's moral. If no, then don't do it.
This quote from Kant means that we should never use people to get what we want. Instead, we must treat people with respect and dignity. Because Kant believed that moral actions are not about what we gain, it's about what is right, because others deserve respect. Kant argued that it's wrong to treat people like tools or objects for our own benefit. People are not just useful for what they can do for us. They have value in themselves. Moral law demands we recognize this value and treat people with respect. This part of the formulation focuses on what we aim for in our moral actions. It reminds us to look at the purpose behind our actions and make sure that purpose respect the value of others, not just the rules or logic behind it. For example, choosing to volunteer to help others not because of personal gain, but because you recognize the inherent worth of those you're helping, shows respect for the material side of moral law. Kant believes that moral law should aim to protect and respect rational beings because they are capable of making decisions and understanding right from wrong. Our goals should never use others as tools but should always consider their worth. Another examples: friendship for personal gain. If you act friendly with someone only because you want to borrow their notes or get help with schoolwork, you're using them as a means to an end. Because according to Kant, this morally wrong because you are not valuing them as a real person. The moral actions is true friend means caring about the person themselves, not just what they can do for you. Another example. Imagine you are at a restaurant and you speak rudely to the waiter just because you're hungry or frustrated. You're treating them like a tool for your satisfaction, not as a human being. The moral actions is speaking kindly and showing respect even when you're tired or upset means you recognize the waiter as a person with dignity and worth.
A means to an end. This picture illustrates a key concept from Immanuel Kant ethics, the formula of the humanity as an end itself. The picture depicts a person saying, "But I need you to be happy." This statement reveals an attempt to use another person as a means to achieve their own happiness. The person's response, "That's not how this works," directly reject this approach. Kant argued that it's morally wrong to use people merely as a means to achieve your own ends, regardless of the intention. People possess inherent worth and dignity, and should always be treated as ends in themselves, worthy of respect and consideration, not just tools to achieve something else. The picture highlights of the conflict between utilitarian approach and Kant's deontological ethics. While making someone happy might seem beneficial, Kant should argue that it's immoral if it involves manipulating or exploiting the person. The humor of this picture comes from the blunt rejection of the attempt to justify using someone as a mere means to an end.
For example,
Like the politics, they use a promissory words so they get those people's attention and get the intention of the politics to the people. They use a word so the people choose them because they saying the promise on the platform if they win the election of the politics, and some people says that not gonna happen.
Third formulation, the formula of kingdom of ends. The notion of a universal law provides the form of the categorical, imperative, and rational agents as ends in themselves provide the matter. These two sides of the categorical imperative are combined into yet and third formulation. A kingdom of ends is an ideal in which all citizens freely respect the intrinsic worth of the humanity and all others because of an autonomously self-imposed recognition of the bindingness of the universal moral law for all rational agents. So, act as if you were both a ruler and a citizen in a kingdom where everyone is treated as if you were both a ruler and a citizen in a kingdom where everyone is treated as valuable, never just a tool, but as an end, a purpose in themselves. So let's talk the key ideas. So first, universal law. You must follow rules that could apply to everyone and respect for humanity. Every one person you must be treated with dignity and respect, not used as a tool for your own benefit. Next, kingdom of ends. An ideal community where everyone acts morally, treats others with respect, and recognizes that each person has their own value. In short, treat others the way you would want everyone to be treated as valuable, independent, and deserving of respect. So, a simple example, situational, respecting promises. Because breaking promises would treat others like tools for your own convenience, not respecting the right to trust you. So, number two, not manipulating others. For example, not lying to get something you want. You must respect others' ability to make free informed decisions. Next, number three, helping others when possible. Not to get something in return, but because each human life is valuable and deserves help when needed. So, in summary, Kingdom of Ends is an ideal moral world, and everyone follows the moral law out of their own free will. No one just used, everyone is respected as important. Thank you.
Deontological moral theory. Deon, Greek for study. According to Kant, morality is not about feelings or results. It's about whether you are doing your duty, acting according to a universal law. Key points. The morality of an action depends on your intention, not what happens afterward. You are moral when you act because it is your duty even if you don't like it. Emotions and consequences should not guide moral decisions. Quote examples. I find you disgusting, but I'm going to help you anyway. This is Kanchan hero. Why? They don't like this person. Emotion isn't driving them. They still help not for gain, but because it's the right thing to do, a moral duty. More Kanchan heroes example. A police officer helps a criminal in danger, not out of sympathy but out of duty to protect life. A student reports cheating even if it means losing friends, because honesty is a duty. Summary. Moral worth, acting out of duty, not feelings or results. Even if it's hard, even if you don't want to, that's Kant's moral strength.
The deontological ethics in action. Immanuel Kant's ethics are centered around his concept of the categorical imperative. He believed that moral principles should be based on reason, rather than consequences or personal desires. Kant's categorical imperative is a moral principle that is universal, absolute, and objective. He formulated it in several ways, but one of the well-known formulation is act only according to that maxim, whereby you can at the same time will that should become a universal law. So this is the 7 examples of the deontological ethics in action. First is the story of Captain Phillips. In the story of Captain Philip faced with a difficult decision to prioritize the safety of his crew or to follow his duty to protect the ship and its cargo. So in his perspective, as a captain's duty to protect his crew and ship, however the pirates takes control of the ship, he is faced with moral dilemma that is something bothering his mind, that should he prioritize his duty to protect the ship or try to retake the ship and putting them in danger. Next is Desmondo's story, or the Hacksaw movie. Desmondo's story is another powerful example of deontological ethics in action. The movie tells the story of Desmondo's, a conscientious objector who serves as a medic in World War II. Desmondo's actions are guided by his strong moral convictions, which are rooted in his faith. He believed in the sanctity of human life even in the face of extreme danger. Desmondo's commitment is unwavering even when he faced with enemy fire. Next, Mamudu Gassama is a Malian French citizen who became famous for saving a 4-year-old boy from falling off a sixth-floor balcony in Paris. Born in 1996 in Mali, Gassama traveled to Europe and eventually settled in France, where he performed the heroic act in May 2018. This perspective emphasizes the importance of empathy and care in relationships. Gassama's actions show he prioritized the well-being and safety of another human being, but particularly a vulnerable child. Gassama's heroism raises questions about moral obligation, personal responsibility, and the role of empathy in decision making. His action inspired discussion on ethics and morality. Next, the tankman, also known as the unknown protester or unknown rebel, is a legendary figure who stood in front of a column of tank type 59. The tank's man's decision to confront the tank raises questions about the balance between moral courage and prejudice, highlighting the complexities of making ethical decisions in high-pressure situations. The tankman's action continued to inspire discussion on ethics, morality, and human rights. Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was an African-American civil rights activist who became a pivotal figure in the Montgomery bus boycott. On December 1, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, Parks refused to give up her seat on segregated bus to a white person, sparking widespread protests and contributing to eventual segregation of public transportation in the city. Parks' action brought attention to the systematic racism and inequality faced by African Americans, emphasizing the need for justice and equal rights. Next, Oscar Schindler. Oscar Schindler was a German industrialist and a member of Nazi Party who is credited with saving the lives of 1,200 Jews during the Holocaust. Schindler's action required immense courage as he raised his own reputation and protect others from Nazi persecution. By saving 1,200 lives, Schindler's action can be seen as maximizing overall, despite the immense of suffering around him. Lastly, the Philippine hero. Many heroes risk their lives facing imprisonment, torture, and death, showcasing moral courage and willingness to sacrifice for greater good. Heroes like Jose Rizal and Andres Bonifacio advocate for equality, freedom, and human rights, highlighting the importance of social justice. Their stories inspire discussion on ethics, morality, and the importance of standing up for what is right. So, in simpler terms, before making decision, you should ask yourself, would I want everyone else to make the same choice in similar circumstances? If the answer is no, then the action is likely not morally justifiable. Kant's ethics is emphasize the importance of treating individuals as ends in themselves rather than mere means to an end. He believed that human beings have inherent dignity and worth and should be treated with respect and autonomy.
In conclusion, Kant's deontological moral theory teaches us that morality is not about emotion or the consequences for our action, but about doing our duty simply because it is the right thing to do. His concept of goodwill, the categorical imperative, and the kingdom of ends reminds us that moral action must be guided by reason, fairness, and respect for others as equals. By applying Kant's principles, we learn to act not out of self-interest but out of respect for moral law and for the dignity of all human beings. In a world guided duty and respect, each person is treated not at all, but as someone who matters, and that is the true heart of morality. Thank you for listening, and we hope you guided a deeper understanding of Kantian's ethics.